Crap. Where the hell am I?
Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception had the unenviable job of being the sequel to Uncharted 2: Among Thieves. Following up a genre-defining classic would undoubtedly put an insurmountable pressure on developer Naughty Dog to somehow top one of the greatest games of all time. Among Thieves' quality over Drake's Fortune set a precedent of drastically better sequels, something that the third entry did not quite fulfill for many players back in 2011. History has marked Uncharted 3 as a divisive game because of its perceived failure to top its precursor, so does this remaster change that general consensus or reinforce it? Let's find out here in this review of Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception Remastered.
Don't leave without me, boys.
As was the case with the other two titles in the Nathan Drake collection, this remastered version is unmistakably better than its PS3 iteration. As the best looking entry in the trilogy, the enhancements in this remaster are more subtle, but noticeable enough to easily make this the definitive edition. Bluepoint Games, the port wizards behind this collection, have once again successfully made a gorgeous game look even more gorgeous, which is evident during gameplay and the great new photo mode. They've also improved something that Naughty Dog wasn't even capable of, the erratic aiming and gunplay that poisoned the original. Shooting feels incredibly silky, and this core refinement makes it easier to appreciate the variety in firearms, along with their stronger, louder sound effects. Bluepoint, however, hasn't fixed some of the issues that surround the shooting. The scores of British suits must be coated in some sort of armor due to the way they shrug off bullets and scurry to cover. This elongates encounters because they can make it behind walls more easily since they don't always stagger and stumble when they eat some lead. This problem contributes to the bigger issue that encompasses the entire game. It's too hard for its own good. Though tolerable in the first act, the game quickly turns every encounter into a last stand where foes flood in from every corner at a relentless pace. Bad spawns exacerbate the difficulty since grenade launchers or shotguns can cheaply end you out of nowhere. New waves are rarely highlighted, so dying from a random unknown rocket can happen quite often within the fog of war. An abundance of unflinching, merciless enemies on top of rotten spawns muddy up shooting that's actually quite incredible when all the right aspects come together. The faults are so noticeable because the gunplay is so good at its foundation. Drake's less murdery monkey half gets its required screen time through platforming, puzzles, and the premier set-piece moments. Climbing ledges and jumping around is unaltered as it didn't need much changing, although the puzzles have been improved over Drake's Fortune and Among Thieves. Solutions arise more naturally through critical thinking and intuition over the old method of tediously checking Drake's notebook and aligning symbols. Uncharted 3 has the best puzzles in the series, but the set pieces didn't quite see the same upgrade. At their best, these segments rival some of the franchise's landmark moments that strike the perfect balance between cinematic flair and interactivity. At their worst, these scenes get deflated because of how hard the game is. Set pieces thrive when the difficulty takes a back seat to the action since dying slams on the brakes. Uncharted 3, more so than its predecessors, doesn't mind killing you a few times in these sequences and draining some of its hard-earned adrenaline. It's a roller coaster of awe-striking moments, it just has a few more hitches in the tracks this time around. The story also invites the roller coaster comparison. Nathan Drake embarks on a quest to tie up an old loose end, one that has been nagging at him for over 2 decades. A ring, a secret society, and deception galore all crisscross in a way to compose the most in-depth narrative the series has ever seen. One of the ways that Uncharted 3 succeeds is its willingness to delve into Nate and Sully's relationship and history together. New angles are opened up as the events nudge the story in a more personal direction over the usual treasure-based fare. Chasing artifacts feels like the means to move Nate's personal story along, whereas the other games were the exact opposite. It's a refreshing take on the concept that was on the verge of growing stale. but Naughty Dog has hit a few snags as they break away from their formula. Uncharted 3 depends a little too heavily on unexplained plot devices or extremely convenient solutions.
How convenient.
Or, even worse, things won't get explained at all. There's a particular prevalent plot point meant to intrigue the player, but it's never explained, only dropped before it can hint at a rewarding solution. Subtlety is a great narrative device and something the game handles well in other situations. Although, like the shooting and set pieces, the high narrative highs make the lows more glaring. Overall, it's an engrossing personal story with fluid animation, witty dialogue, and some of the most charismatic characters in the medium. It just takes a few risks that don't completely pay off. The Nathan Drake collection has had something to say about each game within the context of the modern day. Drake's Fortune is great, but not quite as great, and Among Thieves is still a classic. But Drake's Deception's case isn't quite as simple. The remastered trilogy ender now has the opportunity to separate itself from the burden of being so closely compared to and linked with Uncharted 2, despite ironically being bundled in the same collection. It gets to finally show that it is worthy of the Drake name, and it has this splendid PS4 version to thank for that. Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception Remastered gets an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you everybody for watching, and my name is Michael Larry and I'm signing off. Later.